in this lesson, we'll transfer our painted maps to our low resolution geometry. So let's go ahead and take the maps that we created and apply them to the geometry that we output at the end of the sculpting process. So I'm going to go ahead and just turn off the visibility on our sculpt. I want to match up the specularity values on this material. So I want to go ahead and use this material, which is the baked material, for that low resolution mesh, which I can turn on the visibility here. So the specular is 22 and 34 in the width and the height. So I'll go ahead and set that appropriately. And now I just want to set up this material. But before I do that, I want to go ahead and do a render. So let's go ahead and do a quick render here. Just do in our render view. And so you can see that the displacement is working appropriately. It is subdividing this low resolution geometry and then creating that sculpted look on that low resolution piece. And that displacement's coming here from our displacement. And this is what we output from our bake from when we sculpted. So now what we need to do is go ahead and add our texture maps. So the first thing that I'll do is go ahead and go into color, and we'll choose color, and we'll choose to load image. All right, so we didn't have to export any files. As we're working, it's saving those files out, and it's going to be located here on the same level as your scene files. So let's go ahead and add this color, which is the color map that we created. Add that into the color. You can go into editor and change your texture preview size if the texture is not looking the way that you want it to look. Okay, so we can change that so it looks a little bit better. So now if we go ahead and do a quick render, this is going to have a combination of the displacement and also the color texture that we created. So it's looking a lot like the sculpt and the painted mesh that we created, but it's on a low resolution mesh here. Let's go ahead and drop in the specular. So under specular, we'll go ahead and load image. And let's go ahead and drop in the specular map. Okay, let's do another render. So you can see elements are wet and then other elements are drier. So that's helping a little bit. It's subtle, but you can see it. Let's go ahead and jump into bump and load the image, and we'll load that bump map in. So load that in. And let's go ahead and set that to 100 just to see what that looks like. So let's go ahead and render that up. So it doesn't really look too bad here. If we get up a little bit closer and do a render, the bump maybe is a little bit too much, and so you can always take that bump down a little bit. So again, this is the geometry we're working with. If we take a look at this, pretty low resolution. It could easily be rigged or animated. Okay, but we're getting a lot of detail here when we actually render. So within the material, if we look at this once again, we have the color being defined by the painted texture that we did in body paint. We've got a diffusion being driven by the ambient occlusion. Okay. Then we also have a bump map that we painted, the normal map that we output, and then the specular map that we painted, as well as the displacement and the subpolygon displacement turned on. So all that in combination is allowing us to see on this low resolution model a creature that looks a lot like the high resolution sculpted and painted creature that we went through the process of creating during this course. So if we go ahead and render this guy up in our picture viewer, kind of get a better idea of how he looks. So it looks, I'd say, pretty close to what we sculpted and painted. If you want to move up a little bit closer, do another render, you can see that. So we just kind of used this guy as an example, and we've gone through it very quickly, but you can use this process on your own models, just working them up from blocking in the base geometry, using the modeling tools in Cinema 4D, building out the arms and legs and so forth, creating the UV layout, doing all of your sculpting, so not having to leave Cinema 4D to go to something like ZBrush or Mudbox, but doing your sculpting in Cinema 4D to create the high resolution detail. And then once you've got that detail created, you can even bake the maps here in Cinema 4D, and it's a very quick process to do. And then once those maps are baked, you can go through the process of actually painting texture. So there's so much you can do here in Cinema 4D without ever leaving, and so we wanted to just show you that process from start to finish. And you can use that on your own models, as complex as they are, and go through that process and be able to have all of these tools at your disposal and not necessarily have to leave. If you've just got Cinema 4D and maybe don't have access to other applications, this is really a great solution for you in many cases. Okay, so make sure to check out the new sculpting features in Cinema 4D Studio, and also you can use body paint to paint up your textures and get a nice creature created from start to finish. So I hope you have enjoyed the last few hours going over this process. I know I've enjoyed it, and hopefully you can post some of your own work going through this process and working on your own creatures that you've designed. We'd love to see those, definitely. So hope you've had a good time. I know I have. We'll see you next time.